Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Thank you for staying with us. A steady stream of mostly value-added and young Nigerian professionals are still making their way out of the country in search of better career opportunities. It doesn't matter the destination. What began like a trickle has progressively become a defining feature of this country's socio-economic fiber. Now, there have emerged reports of entire hospitals closing down for shortage of doctors and nurses in different parts of the country. Critically, this exodus has continued in defiance of the strictest immigration conditions ever known in Nigeria, and that's just saying something. Well, joining us now to rub minds on this problem and what the government can do about it is Dumebi Kachikwu, a media personality, businessman, and politician. Good morning and welcome to the morning show. If you can hear me...
Good morning. Thanks for having me once again.
Yes. Good morning, Dumebi.
I can hear you clearly.
Fantastic. Now, as a businessman and politician yourself, how would you assess the current situation regarding the emigration of young Nigerian professionals, commonly known as Japa, the Japa syndrome, and its impact on the socio-economic landscape, and also giving the alarming reports of hospitals and medical facilities to close down? What urgent measures do you believe the government should undertake to address this critical issue to ensure sustainability, most importantly within the healthcare services in Nigeria to begin with?
Oh, that's a very, very lengthy, multi question. I will start by saying this. Japa itself is a negative connotation. It's a Yoruba word that means run away from something. In other climes, when people migrate for economic reasons, or people seek to go and gain something and then come back home. And this has happened decades past in Nigeria, where our people went overseas, studied, and came back to contribute their quota. But what we see with the Japa syndrome are a generation of people who have said, Nigeria is bad, Nigeria is no good, Nigeria has got nothing to offer to me, and I am leaving Nigeria. This happens to be the greatest threat our nation faces today, above security, above the economy, above everything else we discuss. Because the middle class, who are the engine room of any society, are leaving Nigeria. They say Nigeria no longer works for them. Now, when your middle class leave your nation, you don't have a building block. You don't have a working class. You don't have human capital to develop your nation. You don't have the right people who can make every sector in your nation work again. We are speaking about today. It has a knock-on effect for next year, for the next 3, 5 years, 10 years, and then that's when we will see how bad what we are taking for granted today, what is done to Nigeria. The government has to do something very, very drastic. Now, I will quickly say this. There are two sides to Japa. There's a side of a country and the government is not working for its people, and we all understand that for a very, very long time, government has not really done what it ought to do for her citizenry. We've seen that government has failed at all levels, and it's no longer news. We understand that. But at the same time, the people also have a role to play in the failure of government. I am one of those people who always says that change must begin from you. And if your attitude towards the problems we face as a people is for you to Japa, then you were originally a part of the problem. You're right when you said a lot of hospitals are empty. The hospital I use in Abuja, every time I go there, there's a new doctor because the doctors have left and they keep on trying to employ new people. Imagine this. Look at this from this angle. In the medical sector, it's very cheap to train a doctor in Nigeria. The Nigerian government subsidizes education and it becomes cheap to train doctors in Nigeria. So what do these other countries do? They let the Nigerian government subsidize education, and then when you've trained these doctors, they come and mine your healthcare sector, take the very best, and take them to their country because it's expensive to train these people. Concerning the healthcare sector, what will I do if I were the president? You can't stop people from migrating, but I'll put in place stringent policies. If you want to take my doctors, people in my in the healthcare sector, you will pay me what I spent to train those people. That means whatever it costs to train a doctor in the UK, in America, in Canada, what have you, I will make sure that the hospitals who are recruiting those people, before they Japa, pay back that money, so that I will use to train more doctors. We can't have a situation where, imagine if we had another pandemic in Nigeria, what will happen to Nigeria? Just imagine that if we had another major health situation in Nigeria, what will happen? We are speaking about city centers being deserted, no doctors. Imagine what's happening in the rural areas. So the government must be more up and doing. It must not be lip service. We must not continue to say, oh, people are Japa syndrome and put out ads. No. Why are they leaving? We understand there's a cultural issue, but the economic issues, socio-cultural issues, the security issues that plague the nation, what is government doing to make sure that the bulk of the middle class no longer leave Nigeria? They must start looking at those issues that militate against young Nigerians and make sure those issues no longer exist, so that we don't wake up one day and all you see is the carcass of a nation.
All right, Mr. Kachikwu, thanks very much. I'm sure you followed what the CBN governor, Mr. Yemi Cardoso, said when he was invited to the National Assembly the other time about the fact that those who are migrating for educational purposes are part of the problem of the naira, that they are putting pressure on the dollar, which is part of the reason why things are tough. A lot of people see that as another round of blame game, you know, shifting the blame to those who are either seeking education abroad or who are seeking greener pastures. What are your thoughts on this? Is the CBN governor saying that, okay, we might have failed to fix what we were meant to do in Nigeria, but then the mere fact that people are going on their own is also a problem? And therefore, is this saying that do not migrate, or for those who are in the generation of Mr. Cardoso, that the young Andrews of Nigeria should not check out?
Well, I don't know why Mr. Cardoso said that. I feel like he had no real understanding of the issue, and as you see, use the word blame game, and it's another round of blame game going on. When government ought to do something, government seeks to blame the people instead of focusing on solutions. We understand that the people who are going overseas right now for educational reasons are not really going for educational reasons. Education is a means of escape. Education is a means of removing yourself and your family from Nigeria. And we understand that that has an impact on our economy, because when they go, they sell their properties, they take whatever they have in the banks and they buy dollars. Yes, it does have an impact on the naira dollar situation. But the issue we have to go back to is, why are these people leaving? Is Nigeria working? If Nigeria is working, these people will not be leaving. That is the government angle. Yes, government has failed. Government is failing. And yes, government every day, they wake up every day and try their hands at different things to try and make Nigeria better. But let me tell you guys something. It's not possible. There's no miracle that will make Nigeria ever work as long as the Nigerian people no longer believe in Nigeria. Japa syndrome means that the people have lost faith in the nation called Nigeria. When a people have lost faith in their nation, there's absolutely nothing you can do. The most well-intended policies, the best policies, the World Bank can come here, move their headquarters here, and have the best economists in the world and bring all the best theories to play here. Nigeria will not work as long as the Nigerian people no longer have faith in Nigeria. It's just like a bad marriage. No matter what you do as a man, once the woman has checked out mentally from that marriage, you are wasting your time. This is what is happening in Nigeria today. The marriage between the government and the citizenry has hit a rock. Now, instead of us to speak to this issue, instead of us to start speaking to national integration, instead of us to start speaking to building the nation called Nigeria, the national identity, we don't want to address the real issues. We keep on focusing on the wrong issues. The people no longer believe in Nigeria. And the last elections was another blow to this contraption we call Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
We think we took things too far.
Yes, sir. So I want to actually kind of hone in on what you're saying, because it does sound like you may be putting the onus on Nigerians that they are leaving because they no longer believe in the country. However, we do have certain indices in terms of our economic index right now. The food inflation in the country is really high. The forex shocks that the country has felt, the depreciation of the naira, the insecurity in the country, these are factors that might affect somebody's choice whether they want to stay in the country or leave beyond their belief in the country, would you not say? But also I want to ask you, because you said we're not speaking to the problems. For example, the Minister of Health, Ali Pate, did come out earlier and said to combat the brain drain in the health services, he's going to engage with retired medical professionals. Some would argue that that might be an innovative solution as a stopgap measure. Can you offer us any other tangible, innovative solutions in order to actually help us within Nigeria, those of us who remain and who are dealing with this brain drain?
Okay, again, I started by saying that the problem is twofold. You have to blame the government because the government has failed Nigerians. But at the same time also, you have to look at a people who have decided that I won't fight for my country. Let's look at the Great Depression, right? The Great Depression happened all over the world, where the economies of the world collapsed. Like what we're seeing right now happen all over the world. There's an economic downturn in most parts of the world. People don't abandon their nations. America's had major economic problems. Americans have never been seen to abandon their country for greener pastures. People hunker down and build their nation. Nigerians are jabbering to nations where the people have said, come rain, come sun, we will make our nation work. So we've destroyed our country. We've not fought for our country. We are going to places where the people have fought for their countries to say that, you know what, let's be part of their success story. Make your nation a success story. Fight for your country. I will never be part of those who have said that government is working, because I know government is not really working. But I know government is trying to work. Whatever government is trying to do cannot work as long as the people don't believe in what government is doing. It takes two to tango. All the economic indices you raise, from employment, security, the agriculture sector, infrastructure, we have deficits everywhere. We understand that. But who is going to make it work? Bola Tinubu is one man. Ministers, 30, 40 ministers, the heads of the pastures, how many are they? When the bulk of your people lose faith, we have to start speaking to that. Integration, cohesion, and it doesn't help that it seems that the president has come again and is continuing in some areas where President Buhari left off, which is seeming to run a very, very ethnic-centric government, where it seems his people are being appointed. And young people, the young people we have today, don't have patience for that. They don't have patience for bollocks. They just say, what's this? I can't be part of this, where my talents are valued in other nations. So government must start looking critically at what they are doing. Nobody has the patience to suffer. Nobody has the patience to say, you know what, why stay here as a medical professional? Even though I had cheap education here, but I know my colleagues, people who have the same talents I have, are being paid much better in other countries and have kept faith here 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, and I still have the situation where you're not paying me salaries as I'm when due, or that my salaries don't meet my basic needs, can't pay my rent. We cannot have a situation where government continues to falter year in, year out. We keep on hearing the same stories. So it takes two to tango, like I've said. Government has failed, but the people also have a role in this. Let me tell you something. Just before I came here, I put out a broadcast, I'm going to be on a rise to discuss Japa. The reactions I got, a young man said to me, I went to America on vacation with my wife. I got there, and the next thing, my wife told them that my family, they are trying to circumcise my daughter, and she's trying to file for asylum. That's how that young man lost his wife and his family. He has not seen his daughter since then. Another man, his wife got there and said that her husband, who is alive, is dead. And that as a result of this, his family are trying to marry her off to his younger brother. That is what she used to claim asylum. Families are being destroyed due to Japa. Other nations come to Nigeria to start businesses. We have graduates leaving Nigeria to go and do menial jobs. It's a travesty. We have to look at Japa not just from the angle of the failure of government. We have to speak to our people to let them understand that Nigeria is worth fighting for. That's the point I make when I speak about Japa generation. Nigeria is worth fighting for. If we leave Nigeria, who's going to build Nigeria?
If I can come in
If
here,
we leave
Mr.
Nigeria for the
Dumebi.
politicians, who is going to build Nigeria? Yes, please.
I mean, you have touched on the long-term consequences of the unchecked immigration on Nigeria's development prospect. So just two quick questions. Now, how can the government incentivize now the private sector investment for sectors that have the potential to absorb large number of young professionals, like in technology, agriculture, and in manufacturing, as well as the role of education and skill development playing into empowering young Nigerians so that they can meaningfully contribute to the country's economic development? Shouldn't that be an angle that this administration should look at to see how they can keep these young people occupied and at the same time contribute to the economy?
Brilliant question. Yes, you're very right. The president, I believe, got it wrong in most of the initial appointments he made. When you appoint mediocre people, they cannot think, they cannot begin to conceptualize, they cannot come up with the right policies to ensure that we bring back up a failing economy. Let's take ICT, for example, right? India, a population of about 1 billion people, how do you think they keep those people engaged and employed? You take your low-hanging fruit and start working with that. Nigeria is an English-speaking nation. How many telecenters do we have serving the world? Nigeria is an English-speaking nation. People can afford to sell services, architecture, engineering, what have you. There's no service you cannot actually sell from the comfort of your home when you have good broadband service. Broadband in Nigeria is epileptic and it's one of the most expensive in the world. Let's take the mechanics and the plumbers and the gardeners and the carpenters and what have you. We see countries around us exporting these skill sets to Nigeria because what? Most people understand that our people are mediocre. They don't have those skill sets. What are we doing with the polytechnics? What are we doing with all these schools where we can train our people, give them skill sets that will help them today? Give them skill set that will help them today. Do you know that in Nigeria, as we speak today, we have Chinese, we have Lebanese people who are plumbers, who are working as plumbers, as carpenters in Nigeria, who are getting paid 50 times what Nigerians are being paid because they are doing a better job? Why can't we upgrade, enhance the skill sets of our people so our people can do better and then we can export those skill sets to the rest of Africa? We can do these things. It takes a right-thinking person to man the proper sector and get these things done. But because government is failing in all these areas, we are missing out. Why I say the people have got to get involved. I don't believe social media is for complaining. I believe social media is for constructive engagement. I believe we have to start, just like the question you asked, we have to start proffering solutions, putting out the right ideas. They're asking government, why don't you do this? Why don't you try this? Why don't you do all of these things? Because there's so much government can do. Take agriculture, for example. We keep on speaking about agriculture. We need to diversify our economy to agriculture. We need to do that. But the young man will tell you today he cannot farm because the farms have been invaded, that they are killing and raping and maiming people in the farms today. What is government doing about this? What are our governors doing about this? What are our local government chairmen doing about this?
All right.
I'm happy that we're looking at the police reform bill today and what have you, and I hope it does address that. But there's so many things we can actually do if we all as a people come together to see how we can address these issues.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kachikwu. Let's spend the last 1 minute, because we've run out of time, to know your thoughts and what your suggestions, specific suggestions will be to the two people who are in charge of youth in the government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm talking about Dr. Jamila Ibrahim, a medical doctor herself, who's the Minister of Youth, and of course the young Ayodele Olawande, who says that he has the Youth for Youth vision, and is also trying to establish the Nigerian Youth Academy. Not every youth in Nigeria will Japa. For those who will remain and who might still have some belief in Nigeria, what would be your advice to these two ministers who are directly in charge of the youth in Nigeria? Just 1 minute, please.
My dear ministers, Nigerian youths are disenchanted with Nigeria. You need to address the core issues of their disenchantment. You need to start speaking to these people. You need to start having a series of town halls across Nigeria and start addressing their heartfelt issues and make them feel that it's possible for Nigeria to walk once again. Let them understand very clearly in specific terms what government is doing to ensure there's an employment, that there's going to be security, that they're going to bring the price of food down. Let them understand clearly the role they can play as a people. Is it to tone down the rhetoric on social media? Is it for them to look at the low-hanging fruits across for them? Is this how they can start creating, building up their CVs? Is this how they can start retooling themselves, getting certificated courses and what have you? Come up with these ideas, come up with these plans, and start engaging the people constructively. Tomorrow might be too late. All you have is today. Get cracking now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dumebi Kachikwu, media personality, and of course a politician and entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us on The Morning Show today.